4 years ago, two sisters from the Crow's Nest Pass began to research the lives of the men who were lost in the worst mining disaster in our country's history. And now they've published their findings. A biography on the 189 men who were killed during an explosion in Hillcrest mines. The book will be revealed this week as the community honors the centennial of the Hillcrest mine disaster. Brendan Miller has more.
Standing in the Hillcrest Cemetery, these sisters are sharing the stories of the men who lost their lives in Canada's deadliest mining disaster.
What Mary and I set out to do was to find out who the people were that were killed, because over the years they had very much been forgotten.
Using newspaper articles, censuses, and ancestral sites online, and even calling some families overseas, they published a book.
We were able to put all that knowledge together, and with it we were successful in writing about 180 of the men, a bio for each of the men.
The morning of June 19th, 1914 started off like any other as miners made their way to the Hillcrest collieries. 237 men went underground that morning. Only 48 would return. A massive explosion ripped through the mine, killing 189 men, or roughly 20% of the population of Hillcrest. The deadliest mine disaster in the history of our country. No one would ever determine the cause of the explosion.
And it was snowing in June, which just brought you to your knees, because it just sort of explained how dismal the whole situation was for the women and the people that were left here.
Although there are a handful of descendants living in the Crow's Nest Pass, many of the coal miners came from overseas, places like Britain, Italy, Austria, and Slovakia. Through their research, the sisters uncovered tragic stories, families losing fathers, brothers, and cousins. Most are buried here in this cemetery.
This is an Ironmonger family, Ironmonger and White, Charlton, Clark, and Hicken. They were all related, these three men.
And 100 years later, on the 19th, the community will gather for a commemorative ceremony to pay their respect to all those whose lives were claimed in Canada's deadliest mine disaster. Brendan Miller, CTV News, Hillcrest.
As Brendan mentioned, a commemorative procession will begin along Main Street on Thursday and then proceed down to the Hillcrest Cemetery, and it will be a historical reenactment of the funeral procession that took place in 1914.